Welcome back to Movies Outpost. Today we'll be diving into an action thriller trilogy titled Has Fallen. This includes Olympus Has Fallen, London Has Fallen, and lastly, Angel Has Fallen. Enjoy the recap. The movie begins with a light-hearted practice fight between Secret Service agent Mike Banning and President Benjamin Asher. It's clear these two are more than just professional acquaintances. They share a genuine friendship. The president's family, including his wife Margaret and their son Connor, is at Camp David, preparing for a charity event. Banning isn't just the president's bodyguard. He's close to the entire family. We see this when he helps Margaret pick out a pair of earrings for the evening and offers Connor some advice on what it takes to be a good agent. As it's time to head to the fundraiser, the weather takes a turn for the worse, with heavy snowfall setting the scene. The president and Margaret are in the main limousine, while Connor is with Mike in a following SUV. On their way, disaster strikes. A large branch smacks the leading vehicle, causing a series of accidents. The worst moment is when one Secret Service SUV crashes through the bridge's barrier and plunges into the freezing water below. Even more terrifying, the president's limousine is left teetering dangerously on the edge of the bridge. Without wasting a moment, Mike, along with other agents, leap into action. They try to balance the limo by weighing down its end on the bridge. They make desperate efforts to save both the president and Margaret. Margaret's door is jammed though, and the limo continues to shift. Mike manages to free the president. However, the heartbreak is inevitable when he can't save Margaret. The limo plummets off the bridge, taking her with it. Connor comes running and screams, knowing that his mother just died. Fast forward 18 months, and the burden of the past clearly weighs on Mike. He's easily distracted, even when Leah, his wife, tries to talk with him, suggesting they spend more quality time together. Feeling guilty, Mike proposes a movie night when he finishes work. His new role at the U.S. Treasury is a stark contrast from his past responsibilities. The memories of the incident at Camp David haunt him. He meets with the Secret Service director, Lynn Jacobs. She's fully aware of his deep-seated guilt over not being able to save the First Lady. But she consoles him, emphasizing that he made the best decision he could at that moment. Even President Asher stands by him. He just doesn't want to see Mike and be reminded of the tragedy. Meanwhile, President Asher is with his son, Connor. They're discussing their upcoming trip to Camp David, though Connor would much rather go to the beach. Trying to lighten the mood, Asher suggests grabbing some ice cream. But duty calls as Asher is summoned for an important meeting. He's to discuss a pivotal gathering with the South Korean Prime Minister about looming threats from North Korea, a meeting that involves Secretary of Defense Ruth McMillan, Speaker of the House Alan Trumbull, and Vice President Charles Rodriguez. At the White House, Prime Minister Lee and his Chief Security Officer Kang Yoon-suk arrive for the crucial discussion centered on the tension between North and South Korea. However, not too far away, a significant security threat is unfolding. A large AC-130 gunship is spotted over North Virginia, and as two American fighter jets approach it with instructions to land or face retaliation, the situation escalates. Rather than heeding the warning, the gunship unveils machine guns, shooting down both American jets. The severity of this breach is quickly relayed to President Asher. Realizing the magnitude, he cuts the meeting short and goes against standard procedures, prioritizes the safety of his guests, and allows them to be escorted to the PEOC. In a swift response to the airborne threat, the military springs into action. Fighter jets are dispatched. Soldiers gear up and take their places, and SAM turrets are readied to defend against the approaching threat. Seemingly detached from this immediate danger, Mike is at his desk when he suddenly realizes the pandemonium outside. The gunship rains bullets on the streets below, with civilians running in every direction. The harrowing sight of innocent lives being taken unfolds as Mike, driven by instinct, runs toward the chaos. The anti-aircraft turrets launch missiles at the gunship, but it deflects them with its defense mechanisms. As top officials secure themselves in the PEOC, Mike dashes through the streets, urging people to find cover and guiding them to relative safety. The gunship then shifts its focus to the White House, unleashing a barrage that decimates the guards on its roof. Just as all seems lost, a fighter jet swoops in, releasing a missile that strikes true. The gunship, now in flames, collides with the iconic Washington Monument before smashing into the ground. The impact causes the top of the monument to crumble, crushing several tourists below in a heart-wrenching scene. Inside the safety of the bunker, President Asher's primary concern remains his son. He urgently instructs the officials with him to ensure Connor's safety amidst the chaos. Outside, the aftermath of the gunship's destruction leaves Mike staring at the devastation. However, the calm is abruptly shattered by explosions around the perimeter. Mike quickly spots some of the culprits, bombers aiming to breach the White House fences. He manages to neutralize one, but another succeeds in his mission. A fresh wave of terror unfolds as Korean insurgents deploy smoke grenades, masking their assault. They then shoot some RPGs, tearing through the White House gates. A fierce gunfight erupts between the attackers and the Secret Service, with significant casualties on both sides. As Mike throws himself into the fray, the situation becomes even graver with two large trucks approaching. Meanwhile, inside the Pentagon's crisis room, Jacobs convenes a meeting with Ray Monroe, General Clegg, and other top officials. They're quickly briefed on the unfolding nightmare at the White House. Back at the battleground, the Secret Service is outmatched and outgunned, with many officers falling to the relentless assault. Mike's sharpshooting skills come in clutch, and the military reinforcements are on their way to the scene. Meanwhile, a nasty surprise awaits the officials in the bunker. Gunfire rings out as Kong, with his team and an unexpected ally, former Secret Service agent Dave Forbes, kill all the security inside the bunker. Asher and his associates find themselves at gunpoint, held hostage in what was meant to be their safest refuge. Outside, things take a drastic turn. As Mike and the remaining guards regroup, the ominous trucks make their presence felt. One truck's doors swing open to reveal a massive machine gun, which lays waste to any soldier in its path. An RPG round blasts the main entrance of the White House, and Mike witnesses the horrifying sight of his comrades falling. With the perimeter breached, he makes his way into the White House, seeking cover. The assault continues as the second truck delivers a payload, crates packed with weapons. Now armed to the teeth, the terrorists solidify their position within the White House. Their technical expert, Lim, ensures all external communication and controls for the White House are jammed. The defenders aren't giving up, though. Within the White House, Roma and his team mount a desperate counterattack against the terrorists who've now gained access to the control room. As gunfire echoes through the halls, Roma delivers a grave message: Olympus has fallen, signifying the loss of the White House as he is killed. With the White House under siege, reinforcements rally to reclaim the symbol of American power. They surround the historic building, assessing the situation and planning their next move. Inside the command center at the Pentagon, a shocking moment unfolds as Kong establishes a video link. Those watching are met with the brutal sight of Prime Minister Lee's execution. Kang's message is clear: stand down or face further bloodshed. As the call ends, this threat is driven home when a defiant Asher refuses to submit to Forbes, and another innocent life is snuffed out as a grim example of Kang's determination. Navigating the harrowing corridors of the White House, Mike discovers Agent Roma on the ground. Resolute, Mike makes his way to the control room. There, he stealthily neutralizes a guard and discovers a photograph of Connor in the man's pocket. Using the control room's computers, Mike manages to lock the terrorists out of the system completely. But the situation remains dire. Kong, with his cold and calculating demeanor, demands access to archived files. To President Asher, he explains the wrongs committed by America by involving themselves in the Korean Civil War. Kong, speaking in Korean, orders his men to locate Connor, and the president can do nothing about it. The situation escalates rapidly. At the Pentagon, Trumbull steps in, assuming the role of acting U.S. president during this unprecedented crisis. Meanwhile, inside the White House, Mike manages to reach the Oval Office. From there, he communicates with Jacobs back at the Pentagon. Though skepticism clouds the judgment of some members, Jacobs vouches for Mike's integrity. The conversation is punctuated by an intense face-off between Mike and an intruder, proving to be one of the stronger adversaries Mike has faced. Nevertheless, with the help of a Lincoln statue, Mike prevails. Kong then reaches out to the Pentagon and demands the 7th Fleet pulled back, and insists on the withdrawal of 28,500 American troops from the demilitarized zone, or else the president will get it. Faced with an agonizing decision, the gathered officials are caught between a rock and a hard place. Trumbull proposes reaching out to officials in North Korea, Russia, China, Britain, and France, hoping for a way out of this dire situation. In the bunker, tension peaks as Kong wields a knife, pressuring Admiral Honig for the Cerberus code. Reluctantly, under Asher's distressed watch, Honig reveals the code. Kong quickly activates it. Alarms sound at the Pentagon when NORAD reports the Cerberus code's activation. In the White House, Mike sends the Pentagon a picture of an assassin's tattoo, seeking updates. Trumbull informs him about the code's grave implications. It can shut down the nation's nuclear defenses. Only the president from the bunker's computer can alter it. They deduce Kang's interest in Connor is to control Asher. Trumbull tasks Mike with finding and protecting Connor. Kong, after seeing Mike's actions on surveillance, demands to know more about him from Forbes and decides Mike must be dealt with immediately. His men start searching the living quarters to find their intruder. But in the meantime, Mike discovers Connor hiding in Lincoln's bedroom's hidden walls. Mike manages to safely extract him just as more terrorists enter, firing their weapons at the wall. To calm Connor's fears, Mike reassures him that his father will be all right and tells the Pentagon he is guiding Connor up a ventilation shaft. The army goes to send in a team to wait for him outside. Mike takes out a soldier that discovers the hole, and with a sniper guiding them, 2 military troops stealthily make their way towards the shaft. They manage to rescue the boy, and Trumbull commends Mike for his work. In order to get more information, Mike takes out 2 goons and begins interrogating them. They respond with mockery but quickly shut up as Mike forcefully obtains the answers he seeks. He then informs Jacobs of Kang's identity, Yunzik Kang, head of the paramilitary organization KUF. He is the most wanted terrorist in the records, but no one had a single image of him. Additionally, they uncover that Kang lost his mother to an American landmine, adding to his revenge plan. Inside the White House, ominous explosives line the walls, their purpose yet unclear. Kang reaches out to Mike via intercom, leading to a tense exchange. Mike confidently informs Kang of Connor's safe extraction and boldly vows to bring him down. Kang retorts by referencing Mike's wife, trying to get under his skin. All the while, Asher listens, the weight of the situation evident on his face. Kang, relentless in his mission, turns his focus to McMillan, pressing her for another Cerberus code. Despite the excruciating pressure and Kang's cruel methods, McMillan remains unwavering. But as her life hangs in the balance, a desperate Asher commands her to reveal the code, which she does. With the second Cerberus code now activated, alarm bells ring out at the Pentagon. The atmosphere becomes tense as Mike stands face-to-face with Forbes. Though initially fooled by Forbes' act of fear, Mike's suspicions are aroused when his teammate mentions Kang by name. It's a detail that he shouldn't know, and it's enough for Mike to connect the dots. The tension escalates into a violent confrontation between the two, knives flashing and punches thrown. Forbes, skilled but outnumbered in this duel of wits and strength, finds himself disarmed. Mortally wounded, he finds himself cornered by Mike, who demands answers. Forbes admits his betrayal, confessing he'd lost his sense of direction and purpose. Seizing the moment, Mike coerces Forbes into deceiving Kang, making him believe Mike is dead. Once the message is conveyed, Mike delivers the final blow, ending Forbes' treacherous path for good. Back at the Pentagon, Trumbull tells Mike they're out of time and are sending in the SEALs. Multiple units begin flying into Washington and are quickly spotted by Kang's hacker. Mike then finds some empty boxes and communicates with General Clegg, revealing that the enemy have the Hydra 6 in their possession, next-generation weaponry. Nevertheless, Clegg orders the troops to proceed. Mike kills 3 enemies that attend to the weapon's controls, but is pinned down and cannot stop it. Tragically, the weapon turns on and manages to shoot down a chopper. Its rapid fire causes great difficulty, and it takes down one team after the other. As Mike kills the last man, he runs to the rooftop with an RPG. He blows the Hydra 6 as it shoots down the last chopper, which crashes into the White House, causing a massive explosion that inflicts severe damage to the building. Kang establishes contact with the Pentagon and carries out an attack on Vice President Rodriguez. He instructs them to recall the 7th Fleet and prepare a helicopter for their escape at dawn. Trumbull establishes connection with Mike once again and tells him he is going to recall the 7th Fleet. Mike tells him that's a mistake, and Trumbull gives him a half-hour limit before he gives the order. Mike then has a quick chat to his wife, grabbing some much-needed motivation for this upcoming battle. He makes a bold move by calling Kang and telling him he better save the last bullet for himself or he's going to regret it. He also threatens him and says there is no more negotiating, only death. This causes Kang to remove McMillan from the room and drags her outside with his men. Kang tells her she's free. As the news media covers the unfolding events, they capture footage of McMillan cautiously appearing in plain view. With her back turned, Kang nearly fires at her, but Mike intervenes and opens fire, diverting Kang's attention and enabling McMillan to escape, rescued by the troops. Mike takes out 3 enemies that remain to fight one at a time. Trumbull tells him he gave it a good shot and orders his men to remove their troops from Korea as well as the 7th Fleet. This is immediately played all over the media. Kang sees this and smiles, but now things get interesting as he masks the hostages with concealed bags over their heads. He and his team dress up and tie a chain around each other. They leave the bunker and begin walking out. The chopper lands, and as the hostages and terrorists board the helicopter, they find themselves under the watchful eye of approaching troops, who hesitate to open fire due to the risk of hitting the president. Just as the helicopter ascends, it suddenly explodes in midair and crashes to the ground. The Pentagon goes into shock. They believe that Asher has died in the explosion, along with everyone else. Mike receives the news but remains skeptical, knowing Kong is not the type of man to go out like that. Indeed, it turns out to be a diversion. Kong and the remaining men secretly hold Asher in the bunker, right as they finish hacking into this Cerberus code. The system turns online, and Kang's truly horrifying plan becomes clear. He intends to trigger the detonation of all the nuclear weapons to destroy the United States entirely. The Pentagon receives word of what is about to happen, and a 5-minute countdown initiates before the detonation of the nukes. Kong blows a hole into the tunnels below the White House and leaves the bunker. Mike is waiting for them and opens fire, quickly killing 3 enemies as Asher joins the fight by trying to stop Kong, though he is instead shot. A fierce conflict ensues between Mike and Kong as he pulls out 2 knives. The battle is ferocious, and Kong is no easy adversary. He gains the upper hand and throws Mike all around. He even taunts him by calling him a failure. However, Mike eventually lands a mad combo and grabs the knife on the ground and finishes off his opponent. Mike hurries into the bunker, urgently telling the Pentagon that Asher is alive, but with less than a minute left to stop the detonation. Jacobs, Trumbull, and Clegg rush to provide Mike with the deactivation code. With only seconds remaining, Mike successfully stops the detonation sequence, much to everyone's relief. Cerberus has been shut down, and America has been saved. Mike takes Asher outside, reuniting him with Connor, while Leah reunites with Mike. Asher addresses the nation, honoring those lost in the attack. He assures them that this tragedy has ignited their hope and confidence, enabling them to rise above fear and defend themselves. As he concludes, he steps off the stage and shakes Mike's hand. Mike stands with pride, finally finding redemption. The next film kicks off in the vibrant setting of Punjab, Pakistan, amidst a lively wedding celebration. Early on, we are introduced to Cameron, who pays a visit to his father's house for a critical discussion. Cameron's father, Amir Barkawi, is no ordinary man. He's a formidable figure with a vast criminal network spanning the globe. As the story unfolds, the G7 intelligence identifies Amir Barkawi as a notorious Pakistani arms dealer and terrorist. Without hesitation, they authorize a U.S. Air Force drone strike. Tragically, this strike occurs during Barkawi's daughter's wedding, leading to the heart-wrenching loss of many innocent lives. The narrative fast-forwards by 2 years, and we find Mike jogging alongside President Asher. Their conversation revolves around political matters. After their discussion, Mike heads home to find his wife, eagerly anticipating the birth of their child. As a dedicated member of the Secret Service, Mike grapples with the idea of leaving his job for his growing family. He even starts drafting his resignation email. However, before he can finish, the scene shifts to President Asher, who receives a distressing phone call. The sad news is that James Wilson, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, has unexpectedly passed away due to complications from a surgery, leaving the president deeply shaken. The setting transitions to London, where top-tier security agencies convene to ensure the safety of the upcoming gathering of global leaders who will be attending the funeral of the late Prime Minister. We're then taken back to Washington. Mike returns to his office and encounters Lynn. Together, they caution the president about the potential dangers of attending the funeral in London. However, President Asher stands resolute, emphasizing the importance of his presence at the ceremony. As Mike departs, he crosses paths with Alan Trumbull and sends him a greeting. Mike returns home and assures his wife that after this mission, he'll be done. Soon after, he and President Asher depart for London. On the way, Lynn entrusts Mike with the responsibility of leading President Asher's international security detail, emphasizing the importance of ensuring everything goes smoothly. Meanwhile, in London, the chief of security rallies his team. He updates them on the latest developments and reminds them of the gravity of their duty, as they are tasked with safeguarding some of the world's most influential leaders. The entourage touches down at Stansted Airport aboard Air Force One, arriving earlier than expected. This catches John, the head of security, off guard. Mike quickly reassures him, noting that the fewer people aware of the president's movements, the safer it is. London is a fortress at this moment, with snipers, helicopters, and police officers everywhere. Leaders from many other nations are also on their way to converge with each other. Upon arrival, President Asher is warmly welcomed by the dignitaries. In a chilling turn, a man disguised in a police uniform discreetly attaches a bomb to the vehicle of the Canadian Prime Minister. Moments later, the car explodes, causing immense devastation. At the same time, those believed to be the King's Guard open fire and kill the German Chancellor and innocent civilians. It's soon revealed that terrorists have infiltrated the ranks, posing as members of the Metropolitan Police. As President Asher nears the cathedral, a massive group of mercenaries emerges from the shadows, plunging the scene into chaos. Explosions from detonated cars echo through the streets, and the cathedral's entrance is swiftly barricaded, leaving the president stranded outside. Mike springs into action, neutralizing several adversaries before seeking refuge behind an SUV. From this vantage point, he continues to fend off more attackers. Then the war machine comes into play again, but is swiftly neutralized by Mike's quick thinking. Suddenly, 2 ambulances speed onto the bridge, and in a heartbeat, both explode. The force of the blast is too much for the bridge's structure, causing it to fracture and begin to collapse. Amidst the chaos, the Japanese official tragically loses his life. Elsewhere, the Italian Prime Minister, consumed by fear, is inside a chapel when a deafening explosion occurs, claiming his life. The terror doesn't end there. The French president's boat is next, erupting in flames as it's blown apart on the water. In the midst of the pandemonium, a car is quickly sent for Ben and Mike. Without a moment's hesitation, the duo jumps in and speeds away, trying to escape the unfolding chaos. They are quickly met with a hail of bullets. Their driver skillfully maneuvers, taking out an enemy vehicle. However, they're soon chased by a swarm of motorbikes. In a shocking turn, one biker crashes, sending himself through the bulletproof glass. This allows the enemies to shoot through and injure the driver. With no other option, Mike takes the wheel, skillfully evading and neutralizing several pursuers. More bikers appear, but Mike's deft driving keeps them at bay, allowing the duo to press on. Eventually, after taking out the enemies, they reach a waiting helicopter, to which they board and lift off to safety. The scene transitions to a news broadcast where a reporter somberly announces the death toll from the London attacks. 5 world leaders, including presidents and prime ministers, have tragically lost their lives. The narrative then shifts to Amir, the mastermind behind these heinous acts. He's alive and in touch with his son. The son, confident and composed, assures his father that everything is unfolding as planned. Following this, he plunges the entire city into darkness by cutting off its power. In response, the Vice President of the United States mobilizes the nearest units, though they are 2 hours away. The terrorists, relentless in their pursuit, target the president's helicopter. As they soar through the skies, an accompanying chopper is obliterated. Under heavy fire, the president's chopper deploys flares to dodge incoming missiles. But as the threat intensifies, they exhaust their countermeasures. In a heroic act, a second chopper sacrifices itself, drawing a missile away to save the president, yet fate has another card to play. A Stinger missile finds its mark, sending the president's helicopter crashing into a park. The scene is one of devastation. Officials from the United States watch in horror. Miraculously, both Mike and President Asher emerge from the wreckage, battered but alive. Sadly, the same can't be said for Lynn. With her final breaths, she urges Mike to persevere and to safeguard the president at all costs. Emerging from the wreckage of the helicopter, Mike and President Asher try desperately to establish communication with their security team, but their efforts are in vain. Sensing imminent danger, they quickly make their way into the dense forest to evade the approaching adversaries. Back at the command center, Vice President Allen receives an unexpected call. It's Barkawi, very much alive and orchestrating the chaos. Barkawi, with a tone of cold determination, reveals the driving force behind his actions: revenge for the drone strike that tragically killed his beloved daughter. Though he offers a deal, hand over President Asher, and he will halt the ongoing operation. But Allen firmly rejects the offer, making it clear that they will not negotiate under any circumstance. While on the move, Mike incapacitates a police officer. Asher, taken aback, questions Mike's actions. However, upon closer inspection of the officer's weaponry, it's clear he is no officer. Mike then informs Asher of an MI6 safehouse nearby where they can seek refuge, and the duo quickly head to a subway station. But they're not alone for long. Thinking on his feet, Mike deploys a smoke bomb, causing confusion among the attackers. He then tosses a grenade and cleans up the 3 men incapacitated on the ground. Suddenly, a radio from one of the fallen enemies crackles to life. Mike picks it up and finds himself speaking to Cameron. In a bold move, Mike forces him to listen over the radio as he eliminates Cameron's brother, sending a clear message of his determination to protect the president. Meanwhile, back at the command center, Allen accesses a satellite feed that shows Mike holding his gun in a specific manner. Trumbull immediately recognizes this as a coded signal for an MI6 agent. He quickly searches for nearby MI6 safehouses, hoping to pinpoint their location. Back in the thick of things, Asher, sensing the gravity of their situation, makes a solemn request to Mike. He tells him that if capture seems imminent, he'd rather Mike end his life than allow the terrorists to execute him live for the world to see. Soon after, British officials establish communication with Trumbull. Together, they devise a strategy. They'll call off all first responders. This way, anyone still active on the streets can be identified as the enemy, which will allow the military to neutralize them without hesitation. Upon reaching the MI6 safe house, Mike and President Asher are met at the entrance by Agent Jacqueline Marshall. She quickly ushers them inside, ensuring their safety. Once settled, Marshall plays a coded voice message for them. It's from Alan, and he shares specific details known only to the three of them. Confirming his identity beyond doubt, Alan's message further informs them that an armored escort is en route to their location, tasked with safely extracting the president from the city. Marshall then reveals the identity of the mastermind behind the attacks. When President Asher learns it's the man whose family he inadvertently caused the death of, he shows a mix of recognition and regret, indicating he's not entirely surprised by the revelation. A while later, an alert indicates the arrival of their team outside. Mike checks the security cameras and immediately senses something amiss. Zooming in for a closer look, he realizes the team outside isn't theirs. Swiftly, he heads to the armory, gearing up for the imminent confrontation. He instructs Asher and Marshall to take cover. Wasting no time, Mike engages the intruders. He swiftly neutralizes one mercenary, but faces a tougher challenge with the second, drawing attention from another adversary below. Mike thinks he's playing some COD as he slides smoothly, taking down several more attackers. Just as he's about to be ambushed, he manages to overpower his opponent. The duo then dash to a car underground, ready to make their escape as Agent Marshall begins investigating to uncover the mole who's been feeding information to their adversaries. The United States officials prove their worth at this critical juncture. They've managed to pinpoint Barkawi's hideout, a seemingly vacant house that consumes an unusually high amount of electricity and is linked to one of his past businesses. Meanwhile, Mike and President Asher navigate the streets of London. Spotting adversaries ahead, Asher floors the accelerator. Bullets rain down as well as nearby cars erupting in flames, but they press on. Suddenly, a truck barrels in from the side, slamming into their vehicle and causing it to flip. Assailants rush forward, capturing President Asher. Mike, though, proves too difficult. Just in the nick of time, Trumbull's hit squad descends on the scene. Mike quickly briefs them on the president's abduction, rallying them to launch a counteroffensive. Back at London's security headquarters, Agent Marshall manages to restore their surveillance system, using a unique code. This unexpected move leaves everyone in the room both baffled and impressed. In a desolate warehouse, President Asher finds himself bound, with Cameron menacingly declaring that the entire world will witness his demise. Unbeknownst to Cameron, Mike and his team are positioned outside the building. Mike's walkie-talkie rings. It's the chief inspector, urging caution as there is around 100 armed men. But he couldn't care less, and the battle ensues. He and his team, with precision and determination, advances, systematically neutralizing their adversaries. The intensity escalates when an RPG is fired in their direction, but this doesn't deter them. Suddenly, a sentry turret emerges. But Mike, always one step ahead, uses a grenade to put an end to that threat. He and his team push forward. He kills enemies at will, and they even use an RPG to take out the gunners as well as the building generator. They fire more rockets, allowing Mike time to infiltrate his way into the building. He dons night vision goggles and places a C4 next to the gas. He then swiftly and quietly takes out multiple assailants. Mike then acts as if he is one of the enemies until the generator is turned back on. But it doesn't really matter, as he still easily takes out his attackers. He then runs through the building and manages to grab a quad kill and gets shot in the process. He uses grenades and anything he feels like to kill his adversaries. It is at this time, Cameron turns on the live broadcast of the president to the world. He beats him as Asher repeats the inaugural address. Cameron grabs a sword, and at the last second Mike rushes in, guns blazing. He kills every single man in the room and runs out of bullets as he faces Cameron head-on. He starts off winning the duel but is stabbed in the stomach area. He continues fighting and starts beating Cameron to a pulp until his brother throws a grenade which allows Cameron to escape. The duo then gets strapped and try to run away. In the process, they have to kill the countless enemies in their path, though they end up getting stuck with the enemy shooting them from both sides. Stranded, Mike is left with no option but to tell his man outside to blow up the C4. He detonates the explosive, and the fire races through the entire building as Mike and Asher jump in an elevator shaft as the fire kills Cameron and sets the entire building ablaze. The building is quickly invaded and searched by the U.S. troops. They come upon the elevator shaft and see both Mike and the president laying on the ground, battered and bruised but alive. They come out of the ditch, and President Asher salutes Mike for his heroism. Mike gives his man a device he found that could find the location of Amir Barkawi. The narrative then pivots to Agent Marshall. She confronts Michigan 5 Intelligence Chief John, having discovered he was Barkawi's inside man. His fingerprints were the giveaway, found within the security system. He tries to justify his betrayal, arguing that he wanted to highlight the nation's vulnerability to violence due to its current military budget. But she does not care and eliminates him. Elsewhere, Barkawi's phone rings. It's Alan. With a tone of finality, Alan informs him that his sinister plan has crumbled. Barkawi defiantly retorts that it's just the beginning. The response is chilling. Look outside. Before Barkawi can react, a drone strike hits his base, obliterating him and the remnants of his organization. Fast forward 2 weeks. London, resilient as ever, is on the mend. Mike, seeking some break, returns to his hometown. He's there to cherish moments with Leah and their newborn daughter Lynn, named in honor of his fallen friend. As Mike contemplates his future, wrestling with the idea of leaving his job, he catches a glimpse of Alan on TV. Mike, with renewed determination, deletes his resignation letter. The next movie kicks off with a cut scene to our main man, Mike Banning, a Secret Service operative peering out of a hole in the wall. He is gazing towards a battlefield filled with Secret Service soldiers. Mike Banning engages in combat with these soldiers, who are receiving callouts through their walkie-talkies regarding his whereabouts as he makes his way to the extraction point. On his way there, he is continually met with soldiers who are trying to kill him, with one finally landing a shot on him. Once he is hit, the soldiers stop, showcasing to us that this was only a training drill. Following the drill, Mike is seen engaging in conversation with his longtime friend Wade Jennings, a former Secret Service operative and owner of a private military company known as Salient Global. Within their conversation, one of the private military contractors named Bruno yells profanities at Mike for kicking him down the stairs. Mike shrugs this off and says if you don't train like it's real, then you're dead. Following the training, Mike is shown getting into his car and taking an unknown drug in order to cope with the pain he experiences following his attainment of a concussion in an accident. In a meeting with his doctor, the doctor informs him that he will not last long in his line of work, as his insomnia, chronic issues, and compression of his vertebrae will continue to negatively impact his quality of life. Mike goes home to his wife Leah. His wife asks him how work has been and wishes to know about his possible promotion to Director of the Secret Service, telling him she will set President Alan Trumbull straight for him if need be. The scene then cuts to the White House where Banning is conversing with the current Director of the Secret Service, David Gentry. He reaffirms that Mike will be next in line to take the place of Director of the Secret Service. President Alan Trumbull can then be seen in an interview where he is being barraged with questions from reporters regarding current U.S. government policy regarding war. The president makes it clear in his answers that he has the intention of changing the complacency of Americans going to war and that it could be a real option in the future. He then walks out after being asked a controversial question that was the result of a leak from within the U.S. Congress. He tells his fellow members of Congress that his decision about private contractors was made clear, where the Vice President of the United States, Kirby, says, "It is not the same as fighting for money as it is fighting for your country." The president makes it clear to the members of Congress they should not be leaking information to the press under any circumstances. Later that day, we are shown Wade and Mike seated around a table alongside Mike's wife, where they share stories that they experienced together during the war. The men move their conversation outside where they reminisce the old times together, and Wade asks Mike, "Did you really think we'd live past 30? Just then, Mike experiences a bout of pain and expresses to Wade that he would not take the director's job, even if it was offered to him, as he did not feel he could properly execute the role. He then says to Wade he would put in a good word in for his private military company to his superiors to try and get him a contract. The next morning, a news story regarding Russian troop movements is on the air as Leah expresses concerns to Mike about his battle with insomnia. He reassures her that he is okay and kisses their daughter before leaving for work. On his way, it is narrated to us that a perimeter check is being undertaken, suggesting there is high security detail for a very important person, which happens to be the president. Mike is fishing with the president, who expresses his concern about who can and cannot be trusted with members of Congress. The president asks Mike why is he so nervous to be the director of the Secret Service after he handpicked him for the role. Mike does not say anything but is overcome with another bout of pain, highlighting to us how nervous he really is. The president, in a sarcastic tone to lighten the mood, tells him to scurry off because he is scaring the fish. As Mike makes his way back to chat with other members of the security detail, he takes some more of his medicine and suddenly, Secret Service operatives notice what look to seem like bats. However, thinking, they quickly realize they are explosive drones which have been launched to kill the protective detail and the president. The Delta team engages but are unfortunately too late to react and are blown to pieces. Multiple explosions continue going off and eliminate a majority of the Secret Service operatives. Between the explosions, the scene cuts to the person controlling the drones. The unknown individual purposefully redirects the path of the drones for Mike Banning, showcasing the need of the unknown individual or group to protect him. Secret Agent Murph is blown up trying to protect the president after he successfully throws him to safety in the water. Mike follows the president to ensure he remains safe, directing him to dive deep to ensure they are not heavily impacted by the explosions of the drones. Following the assassination attempt on the president, our scene cuts to both Mike and the president receiving urgent medical attention. Doctors and medical personnel are seen to be scurrying around both the president and Agent Banning, attempting to acquire a response from them in their comatose state, but to no avail. The vice president swiftly makes his way to the hospital to receive information regarding the health conditions of both men, where he is told the president is in a comatose state and is unresponsive. He is then debriefed with a quick security detail where he is told that everyone died on the scene except our main man Mike Banning, who is already showing signs of being conscious. The vice president is then sworn in as acting president, where he is placed under oath in the hospital. The FBI agents discover a van near the crime scene, equipped with electronic devices and a launcher system. This evidence is handed over to the lead FBI agent, Helen Thompson. As these details emerge, Banning's wife rushes to the hospital, learning he's in the ICU. Mike Banning, now in the hospital, is interrogated by Agent Thompson. To his shock, he's handcuffed to the bed, suggesting his involvement in the president's assassination attempt. The narrative frequently shifts between Mike and his wife, revealing a mysterious $10 million in an offshore account linked to him. The story returns to Mike as Agent Thompson confronts him with damning evidence, his DNA found in the van and a classified map from his Secret Service itinerary on the dark web. Desperate, Mike insists he's been framed and pleads for release. Unmoved, Thompson formally charges him with attempting to assassinate the president and plotting against his Secret Service team. As Mike leaves the hospital, the news is broadcasting that Mike Banning is the president's fallen angel, the mastermind behind the alleged attempt, while he is being escorted in a government vehicle in an orange jumpsuit. The press attempts to acquire a statement from his wife as she is on her way home. And whilst this is happening, one of the FBI agents states she has nothing to do with the extensive plot. On the way to a holding facility, the 3 cars escorting Mike suddenly go dead as an external source has tapped into the car's motherboards. The cars are then rammed into, flipping off the road. The FBI agents driving the vehicle are then shot and killed with deadly precision. The men that killed the FBI personnel shines his flashlight onto Mike, following up with cutting his chains loose and dragging him to a different vehicle. During their ride, Mike attempts to find out who they are, but as his patience draws thin, he breaks the window, grabs a gun and shoots the passenger. He then strangles the driver with his cuffs, causing the vehicle to slam into a tree. Mike uncovers the face of the driver and sees it is the Secret Service operative who he had a verbal exchange with at the beginning of the movie. He then tells him, "I told you, you should have trained like it was real." The scene cuts back to the FBI agents in a control room where they receive vision of the incident. They believe that Mike organized this tactical hit. It is then revealed the money from Mike's account was traced to a bank back in Moscow, alluding to the idea that Mike is working for or with the Russians. Our movie jumps to Salient Global, where Wade speaks to an unknown caller over the phone telling him the evidence planted is enough to nail Mike. The man on the other end of the phone with a voice modifier says that Wade should pray that President Trumbull does not wake up from his coma, as Mike will be cleared of all charges. Back to our wanted fugitive, he makes his way to a petrol station and makes a call to his wife. He speaks to her to find out that both her and his daughter have been receiving death threats, but also says that the FBI are watching over their house. He is happy to hear this and tells the FBI listening to their call that he had no involvement in the assassination attempt and wants to find who did it. As he says this, he is told by 3 men to get off the phone as they draw a pistol and assault rifle onto him. He puts his hands up as they realize who he is and attempt to call it in to the authorities to retrieve a bounty on his head. However, as they do this, he disarms the man with the assault rifle and turns it on the other High Mountain militia assailants. He fires a shot, scaring them off, and then steals their truck. While he's on the road, he notices that he's been spotted and is now being tailed by police officers. They get really close to him and he veers them off the road. The cops come from multiple directions, and he swerves the truck through tight corners, and when the chase escalates, he loses the load off his truck, which almost stops the officers from pursuing him. However, there are many still on his tail, and a helicopter is called out to his location. Knowing he is in one tough predicament, he floors it, and thinking of a plan, he decides to end the high-speed chase when he smashes the truck into a barrier which causes it to flip. He continues on foot through the thick forest, and the officers lose their visual on his whereabouts. We jump to a scene where the current president asks Congress how solid the intel regarding Banner's collusion with the Russians really is. They say it's not that solid, and they begin to deliberate as to whether they should or shouldn't retaliate, with the president stating that if they do not, they will look weak as a country. Back at Salient Global, Wade suggests that to find Mike, they must discover where he will run to in order to regroup and receive some help. His hunch turns out to be right as he finds the location of Mike's dad in the same forest he's in. We go back to Mike, who meets a man in the forest and turns out to be his father, Clay. He scolds his dad for walking out on him and his mother. However, his father says given the opportunity, he would do it again because of the toll the war took on his life, stealing his honor, youth, and life. With a solemn look on his face, Clay says Mike should be thankful because him walking out on them was the best thing for them. The stand-in president announces that his intelligence communities have unanimously concluded that Mr. Banning carried out the assassination attempt in collaboration with the top levels of the Russian government. Back within Salient Global, Wade's men discover the exact coordinates of Mike's father and send the troops out. That night, Clay wakes Mike up from his beauty sleep and informs him he has been found. Mike says they should leave, but his dad stands his ground, saying this is his mountain. As they are being approached by enemy assailants, he opens up a secret passageway, telling Mike to stay low and stop whining as he walks through it. His dad proceeds to blow their enemies up, and being the tank that he is, he continues pulling triggers and blowing the sons of to hell. Mike tries engaging with men in hand-to-hand combat, but quickly regrets that decision as bombs keep going off around him, almost hitting him. His dad then tells him to pull on a wire. Once Mike does so, it results in a barrage of bombs exploding around the perimeter of the house, killing every assailant in the area.
Really? You're welcome.
As Mike and his father gather the bodies, his dad informs him on the president's announcement that Mike is colluding with the Russians. He then proceeds to unlock the phone off one of the contractors and calls up Wade. Wade commends Mike's talent on the battlefield. But Mike proceeds to ask him how it came to this, and Wade says that he was a necessary evil, being at the right place at the right time. Tensions rise when Mike says he'll find Wade and ends the phone in his face. Wade then whispers, "That's my Mike." We then cut to the FBI reaching Clay's mountainside house, where the soldiers have been lined up on the porch underneath a note reading, "We work for Salient." The FBI agent says she had investigated some salient messes over in Iraq, with her finally accounting for the possibility that our man Mike Banning may have been set up, as Salient would benefit from starting a war with Russia. President Trumbull finally becomes responsive, responding to stimuli provided by the doctors caring for him. Mike tells his father he is glad to hear the president is awake, but worried because Wade will not stop until he kills him. He informs his father he needs to leave to see his wife and daughter, and his father hears about them for the first time and gestures approval towards his son. We then cut to a phone call between Wade and the unknown caller he has had multiple conversations with over the phone. Wade is threatened by the unknown man who is funding their organization, and the man turns out to be the current president of the United States, Vice President Kirby. He tells Wade to finish the job, and he'll have all the contracts he can dream of. Wade proceeds to send his men to Mike's house where they coerce his wife to leave with them. However, Mike's father engages the men from behind the wall, pistol whipping one and stabbing the other. He then introduces himself to his daughter-in-law, who questions his identity. He tells her the little information he has about Mike to confirm he is Mike's father and expresses the regret he feels for leaving them. We then move on to David Gentry, asking the now-awake President Trumbull. He tells the president about Mike supposedly working with the Russians and that the vice president is close to waging war against the Russians. He demands a phone call with Kirby immediately. Back at Salient's headquarters, Agent Thompson asks for clearance to land, to which Wade allows. Upon landing, they have a quick conversation with him, but Wade realizes they are onto him and fires 3 bullets, each one connecting with an agent. He fires 2 more finishing shots, eliminating Agent Thompson and her partner. Wade tells his right-hand man to get the cars, and they take off to finish the president once and for all. Following this, Mike drives down to the hospital where Trumbull is located and makes his way inside a police patrol car. He forces the officer to get into the trunk, and he steals his uniform. He calls in over his radio that a gunman is outside the ER to draw attention away from the president. He continues drawing units away by calling out that shots have been fired. As he continues, he is spotted by a friend who Mike takes as a hostage. He takes him up the elevator, and everyone in that room point their guns at Mike. He says he wants to speak with David, and once he arrives, Mike surrenders. He demands to speak to the president, and Trumbull allows this to happen. Mike expresses concern that the president is not safe in the hospital, as Wade will not stop at anything to end the president's life. The president says that he knows Mike is on his side as he is the reason he is still alive. He uncuffs him and gives Mike full reign over the current situation, and Mike calls in Marine 1 in immediate evacuation. Mike realizes that the hospital has been hacked into by Wade's men, as there is an unwarranted release of liquid nitrogen into patients' rooms, alluding to the imminent danger of the hospital being blown up. Wade's men reveal to him that they have been discovered and that the hospital is being evacuated. Mike is then told that the nitrogen cannot be stopped as the valves aren't working. In the meantime, Kirby tells everyone in his room that despite the situation, he is still going to war. Trumbull is then wheeled out of the hospital and into a car. But Wade's men spot the car and cut off their escape. Wade snipes the driver of the vehicle, and now things get deadly. Both teams fire endless rounds on each other, with both sides having casualties. As bullets fly, Mike tells his men they need to escort the president inside the west wing of the hospital. But with gunshots ringing out, Trumbull and Mike make a run for it, and the president is saved by one of his soldiers. Simultaneously, the Salient hacker initiates the ignition of a spark and blows the entire east wing of the hospital, crippling it to nothing but dust. Wade instructs his men to seal the place off as he wants to draw the president's blood. Mike and Gentry concoct a plan by using a map in the elevator to get the president to safety. The soldiers barricade themselves with extra protection from Salient firepower, and they further protect the president by locking him in an office with an injured Gentry. Mike leaves the president by promising him he'll be back before he knows it. The president expresses concern for Mike's safety by telling him to stay alive. Salient then start their operation by killing multiple Secret Service agents entering the building. Mike commands the officers to protect the president with everything they've got. He then runs off as everything goes silent. The officers realize Wade and his soldiers have found their way into the building. Just like the training from the first scene of the movie, Mike starts to disarm the assailants one by one. Engaging in intense hand-to-hand combat, he stabs one of them and is then pinned against an elevator door and swiftly pulls his Glock while firing multiple shots, each shot ending the life of a Salient operative. Mike is shot twice in his chest and throws a frag to grab 2 more kills. But it's not over yet. Wade and his men let loose with hundreds of bullets. They kill the protective detail one by one until they fire an explosive to finish off the troops. Wade's men circle the office where the president is hiding, and he instructs his hacker to set up his extraction. As they kick the door open, they realize Mike has deceived them and hidden the president in another room. Little did they know he was hiding in the room right next to them. As Wade and his soldiers attempt to make their way out, Mike shoots one of them directly in his head as a tactical team swiftly storms the building. Wade and 2 of his men run off, however they are followed by Mike, and both parties exchange a barrage of bullets with one another. The chopper going to pick them up at the rooftop begins providing cover fire, causing Mike to run for it. But nonetheless, he continues to spray and pray, ending one of the Salient soldiers' lives and then using him as a body shield from a frag grenade thrown by Wade. As Wade jogs to the getaway helicopter, finally relieved to have escaped, it blows up, leaving Wade to face Mike, who is still alive against all the odds. The two engage in a stare-down where they both pull out their guns and exchange shots with one another. In a battle to the death, Mike disarms Wade and things change from a gunfight to a battle of the blades. Mike swiftly slices through Wade, resulting in his surrender and acceptance of his death and loss. Banning sits beside him in his last moments, with Wade saying to Mike he is glad he lost his life to him. 2 lions in a battle to the death. The scene shifts to show us that there is peace between all countries once again. And just a little point, how on earth did they get that photo? I died laughing from this. Anyways, all charges against Mike Banning have been dropped, and President Trumbull walks in on the vice president in his office. He communicates to him that he had been found out by the FBI agent Thompson before she lost her life. The president in a sarcastic tone says he would have loved to him by keeping him on the U.S. Board of Congress. However, he is marched out the front door by David Gentry on the last day before his retirement. Mike makes his final visit to the president, where he says to him that he regrets not being honest about his medical conditions. Trumbull scolds him, and Mike instead says he did not want the job of being the president's right hand of security taken away from him. And he mentions his father's quote of knowing when to quit so you don't hurt the ones you love, and offers his resignation. The president says to Mike that it is our moments of struggle that define us. However, how we handle them is what matters. He expresses to Mike he still wants him to be director because if it wasn't for him not giving up, he would not be alive. Mike accepts the offer and shares a warm hug and handshake with the president, promising him there will be no more secrets. We then cut to a family reunion taking place at the Bannings' home. Clay asks his son and daughter-in-law if he can stay at the house with them. They both happily agree. Leah then takes Clay to the side and tells him don't break his son's heart again, and he promises her he won't. In an end-credit scene, the two Bannings say their heads are pretty messed up and find themselves at a weird relaxation chamber together. They both lie down in pools, and with their luck, the lights go off and they start talking to each other.
What? Wait, hold it!
Okay, get me out of here.
No way! Turn the lights on!
Sorry, Dad.
You thought this was gonna be a bonding experience? Oh, I'm gonna pee in here.